Coming up on Esoteric Atlanta.
Do you mean to say that God was another's face of the beast, as represented by religion? All religions are different faces of the beast. He performs great signs, starting miracles, even making fire fall from the sky to the earth in men's sight. What does that mean? Aliens perform miracles.
And before we get into the episode today, guys, I just want to take a moment to once again thank our Patreons and our producers here on Esoteric Atlanta. Without your support, this channel would not be possible. If you would like to help support the work we do here on Esoteric Atlanta, there is a link down in the description box below.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. I'm feeling super patriotic today. I just got this sweater from the TikTok shop, and I've got my flag here. And it's actually kind of hot to be wearing this, but I was so excited to wear it that I just wore it. And this morning, what I was going to do, because in one of our last episodes with Tamara, we spoke about the Constitution of the United States of America being channeled from a divine source, which makes sense to me. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, as I keep saying, I'm so proud to be an American. I love my country. I love what my country stands for. But the one thing about, if we step back, if you're from another country, just step back for a moment and listen and listen. Just listen. Just think about this. The United States of America is a conglomeration. It's a melting pot. We have every single person, this country, every single country out in the world has a representative here in this country. We are a group of people. Our ancestors came together from all over everywhere to say, yep, we're not doing this anymore. We're not playing these feudal games with these monarchs. We're going to do our own thing. We're also not going to live in a world where people tell us what to believe. So we're going to grant people the freedom of religion. Bro, boo, you just do you. You do you here in the United States, as long as you don't hurt anybody, as long as you don't go, being a jerk to your neighbors, we're all good. We're all good. You can believe what you want to believe. You don't have to worry about the caste system or being born into, aristocracy. If you want anything, you can do it. This is the land of entrepreneurs. This is the land of the American dream, y'all. And so our Constitution, as has been claimed by the Cassiopeians, was divinely channeled. Now, many of you guys know, as we've said, my friend Emmy said this, I went through my whole deep dive into the missing books of the Bible, which was groundbreaking. All the crap that we had to untangle that we thought we knew about Christianity, which was dead wrong, when we read the missing books of the Bible. Very liberating. And we know that the Essene Book of Peace, very much, my friend Emmy spoke about this, mirrors the American Constitution. Well, who were the Essenes? They were the priest and priesthood of Isis. That is what Yeshua and Magdalene were. They're in the Bible. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the Essenes. The Essenes were hated by like everyone, just like we tend to be. And so I decided today what I was going to do was go through this with you guys to look at these readings from the Cassiopeians. Now, if you're new here, welcome. So glad you're here. We're a bunch of little weirdos on this channel. We like to look through the weird stuff, the weird, the wacky. Nothing is really off limits here on this channel except for words sometimes because of the terms and conditions of the platform we are on. And that's okay. We have great catchphrases to describe stuff that we can't actually describe here because of, words. And so if you're new here, we talk a lot about, again, the weird and the wacky. I also do deep dives into history because I find history to be very petty and very hysterical in a lot of ways. And it also gives us a lot of information about what's going on right now because as human beings, as Joe Rogan says, we're goofy. We're goofy. And so we tend to repeat things. And so that's why we study history anyway, is so that we don't repeat things. And so that's kind of the gist of this channel. So I bring people here to be like, look what I found. What is this? Let's talk about it. Let's continue the conversation in the comment section. What do you guys think? So with the Cassiopeians, if you're new here, this Cassiopeia is a star constellation. Now, with the beings that are being channeled, that are referred to as the Cassiopeians, according to the channeling, they are us from the future. Don't even ask me how that works. I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade, but it's kind of what they say. I don't know if we're actually supposed to understand that, but it is what it is. So nonetheless, the Cassiopeians have been channeled since 1994, so for 31 years now, and they have yet to be wrong. Now, sometimes the Cassiopeian channelings can be kind of frustrating because the Cassiopeians value our free will and our freedom of choice. And so sometimes they won't answer questions, or sometimes they give very vague answers to questions because they want us to network. They want us to talk to each other. They're not here. No one can save us, right? There's no, trust me. I mean, as a woman, I would love for a white knight to come and save my ass. Like, I even said to my boyfriend last night, I was like, I really would love to be a housewife. Like, I just would love to be a housewife. But that's not going to happen. And that's not the reality. We're not going to be saved. We have to save ourselves. We're powerful enough to save ourselves. The darkness has tried to dupe us that we aren't powerful beings, but we are. That's why so much manipulation has happened to try to dumb us down and make us not realize how powerful we really are. And so the Cassiopeians will give information, but not a lot of information a lot of the times, or sometimes they give information that doesn't make sense until after the fact, and you're like, that's what they meant. And they have been channeled now again for 31 years. They've yet to be wrong. It comes off of the template of the Law of One. So if you're new here and you really are like what I'm about to show you, I would really suggest getting the Riding the Wave series by Laura Knight, where she really gets into who the Cassiopeians are, her experience with the Cassiopeians, her own experiences channeling the Cassiopeians. Now, with that being said, for today, for this video, I am going to get to the Constitution, but because there's 31 years worth of post, when I go to do a video with you guys to talk about, when I create content around one of their old channelings, I have to actually find it first. And there's 31 years worth of post. And so when you're searching, when you go to the search bar on the Cassiopeian board and you put in like Constitution channeled, a lot of stuff comes up because it gets referenced a lot of the keywords that we're looking at particular channeling. So I go through and I've read through some of them to try to find the one that I'm actually looking for. And I stumbled upon this particular post. So I'm going to cover this first. And we are going to get to the Constitution, but I am going to cover this first because this, to me, was effing interesting. It gets into the Book of Enoch. It gets into like society before. We have a lot of questions now around our history. A lot of us think that, and we're going to see this in this reading, a lot of us believe that we've been trained to believe that at this point in our timeline, we are the most advanced civilization has ever been. And that's frankly ludicrous because we know that Atlantis, these other Lemuria, these other civilizations that existed, Tartaria, were far more advanced than we are with technology. We're actually the cavemen compared to these ancient people that are our descendants. And so we're going to kind of get into that. And I also wanted to remind you guys, especially if you're new here, one of my biggest pet peeves about any type of really anything, whether it's the disclosure community, the truther community, the academic community, medical community, whatever, is black and white thinking. To be in black and white thinking is a sign of a mental disorder, first of all. So might want to check that out. And it brings us, black and white thinking brings us more into a place of delusion. And we see this a lot in the seeker community. When we're looking at the Law of One and, science, because science says this too, darkness cannot create anything. The only thing that can create is the light. The only thing darkness can do is take from the light and invert it. And so when we look at trying to remedy what's been going on in our world, we see a lot of people out there who are out for blood. They're out for vigilante violence. And that is not going to get us anywhere. In fact, that's not even going to get us close to a golden age. That's going to bring us deeper into a dark age. The light also does something else. Not only does the light create, but the light also heals. So I want you to think about like light therapy. the sun gazing. These are all forms of healing. So if you're someone who fancies yourself of the light, service to others, I would implore you, I would beg you to consider, instead of just trying to destroy everything, actually look at things, study things, understand things, come to a place of compassion and empathy, and try to course correct what has already been given to us for good. Because you have that power. If you're of the light, you have that power to help heal. And so with that being said, I'm definitely talking to the fundamentalist Christians. Everybody keeps running around right now saying, oh, the Bible prophecies are coming true. Bro, boo. The FMs, which we're going to talk about them in a minute. I can't say their whole name, but the FMs wrote the Bible. We know this. I did a deep dive into King James a long time ago. I showed you all the receipts. We've never seen the real Bible. So it's easy for a prophecy to be fulfilled. If you write the script and you direct the movie, then the script is fulfilled. So the fact that things are happening and people are like, oh, the Bible says this. I'm like, yeah, because they wrote the damn script. They wrote the script and they're directing the movie. So of course things are happening. Wake up, wake up. All religion is man's opinion on God. That's all religion is. And everybody's opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one and they all stink. Right? And here in the United States, we have freedom of religion, right? As I just said in the opening, we're not a theocracy. Our founding fathers said, we believe in a God. Remember, they were coming from the age of reason. Thomas Paine, all these great writings from the age of reason. We believe in a God. We believe in a creator. But we're not going to tell you how you celebrate that belief. How you celebrate that belief in that creator is up to you, or not. Totally up to you. We're just going to acknowledge that you as a human being with oxygen and living, breathing organs was given life by a creator, not by a government. So that kind of changes the game, right? So when we look at that, for the people who are fundies out there, and I've said this before, some of the fundamentalists out there, the world that they want us to go into is way worse. It makes the establishment look like Care Bears compared to what some of these fundy Christians want us to walk into. Literally, it makes the establishment look like Care Bears compared to what they want. And so I would really, really ask you to consider that your perspective on God is simply just an opinion. And opinions are subjective. They're not facts. Feelings aren't facts. Facts are facts. And when we're looking at revolution, when we're looking at changing, when we're looking about getting back to a place of good, we have to consider the facts, not the feelings. So when we talk about these old faiths that predate Christianity, like Isis and Osiris, any of the pagan faiths of Europe, which, just to remind you, the word pagan was created by the church to describe anything that is not dogma of the Christian church. So paganism really doesn't even exist. It's just a conglomerate of non-Christian belief. And remember, the definition of the word heretic or heretical teachings are a belief system that is not approved by the official narrative. So I know I'm a heretic. You watching are probably, I didn't get this. So that makes me a heretic because I think this is bad. The official narrative says it's not, but I think it is. So that makes me a heretic because I don't want this, because I'm not believing the official narrative. Okay? So we're all a bunch of heretics on this channel, right? So I want you to consider that. I want you to consider that all these obelisks that we have all over the world, what if, riddle me this, Batman, what if those are antennas that were placed here by a far ancient civilization that understood free energy? And all these fundies want to go tear them down. How are we going to get free energy then? Those obelisks also represent the human spine, because human spine, that's why spinal health is so important, is the energetic center of the human body. The energy that comes up Sushumna, the nadi of the spine from the base of the pelvic floor, also protects and gives energetic life force to the organs. So as above, so below, the macro and the micro. If you start to destroy things that are here for good, what in you are you also destroying? So I'm just going to say that. So we're going to talk about some of these old faiths in this interesting reading. We will get to the Constitution, but I just thought this was super fascinating. I can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts. I just want you to consider that they're going to talk about how some of these faiths got a little corrupted. But I want you to remember that if you are of the light, your main job is to heal, not to destroy. Okay? So also, for all of the Christians out there that think yoga or anything from India is demonic, you're about to get a shock. A huge shock. Which I, again, would reiterate, feelings are not facts. Opinions are not facts. If you want to understand, if you are of the belief that yoga is of the devil, obviously you have not read the Yoga Sutras, because if you read the Yoga Sutras, you would see it isn't. So I'd encourage you to do your own research. If you consider yourself to be awake, but yet you're still just repeating opinions that other people told you to have, then are you really awake? No. No. So with that being said, let's get into it. Wait. All right, funny story, guys. I just had to hop off because, a little off subject, because my dog started barking like crazy. There was a crash outside, and a couple nights ago, a homeless man slept in my car, so I had to go make sure everything was okay. That's a story for a different day. But let's go ahead and get into this Cassiopean reading. Again, I will link this down in the description box below. This was from October 16th, 1994. It was uploaded on December 3rd, 2011. Obviously, in 1994, I was 11 years old. There was no internets really for us to put this on. We were still using the Dewey Decimal System in the library. Now, with this being said, if you're in the car driving right now, or you can't look at the screen, you might be able, there are some words that I'm not going to be able to say because, you know, words and regulations. And so I will leave those words out of my dialogue. You might be able, if you're driving right now, you might be able to figure out what I'm saying just for the context of the sentence. But if you can't figure it out, I would suggest pausing, and then coming back to this video when you're able to look at the screen. Okay? And again, I'm going to link this down in the description box below. I apologize to the people watching this on the R platform because I'm trying to keep this YT friendly. Because that's where the battle is being fought, is on YT. And I love having the R platform, but we definitely want to keep a presence on YT. So it is what it is. All right. So October 16th, 1994, Frank, Laura, and somebody with the first initial V are in the studio. Question. Hello. Answer. Hello. Music is good. The Cassiopeans crack me up sometimes. And we're going to talk a little bit about Sanskrit here in a minute. So vibration, music, in Ayurvedic healing, the three elements of life are food, breath, and vibration. So the fact that they say, hello, music is good. Laura says, can you give us your name? Sidera, hope I'm saying that right. Sometimes the names I really can't pronounce from the Cassiopeans. Laura, I would like to know the origins of the FMs, the people who wrote the Bible with King James. Answer, Osirans. Okay. Can you tell us when the original FMs formed a society? 5633 BC. Is FM, as it is practiced today, the same? 33rd degree, yes. Now, I have questions about this because I have 33rd degree people in my family. I almost said the name, but I'm not going to. I know some of you guys do too. And listen, no one on this planet can look back at their ancestral line and think it's all good. Like, yeah, we've all got ants. And yeah, we do have some inherited karma from that. A lot of us who have a lot of this in our family who are on the side of truth right now, I think we are correcting that karma. But with that being said, it's not as serious as a lot of people want you to believe it is, because you are not responsible for the shenanigans that somebody else gets into. You did not make that choice. You cannot be held liable for something somebody else did. So I just wanted to clear that up right away. So, is there a continuing tradition for over 7,000 years? So, there is a continuing tradition for over 7,000 years. Answer, yes. Is this organization with the plan to take over and rule the world? Answer, not exactly. What is their focus? Overseers. Of what? The status of the quorum. So, my friends, we've talked about the quorum before. Now, obviously, this is the first time in the 31 years that the Cassiopeians have been in communication with Laura Knight that the quorum has been brought up. If you guys have been around, if you were around for the, we'll say the big old competition, you know, the sporting event that happened in the fall, we talked about the quorum then. Because there was this big competition, again, I'm speaking in code, that happened in the fall between the elephants and the donkeys. And the elephants won in a major way, like slam dunk, you know. And a lot of people on the side of truth were kind of confused by this because we were expecting there to be cheating. But we knew the quorum had stepped in before that competition, especially when Mr. T had that ear problem, you know, the pew, the ear problem. There were some channelings about this. So if you're familiar with the law of one, right now we are in third density. Every density has a purpose. Third density's purpose is to make a choice. So after third density, it splits. So third density is the last stop before a split happens. Or the path, you know, the path is going, and then you have a choice. It's going to fork. Are you going to go right or are you going to go left? Are you going to go service to others or service to self? Are you going to practice of the light or of the darkness? So the quorum, though, from what I understand, this is just my understanding, so I could be, correct me if I'm wrong, is sixth density. So when it comes to, we're in third density, so there's fourth, fifth, and then at sixth density, it loops and comes back together. It all goes positive again, because you can only go so far service to self. The quorum, though, sixth density, and they help both the darkness and the light because people are making choices. Both are paths you take. But the quorum also doesn't get involved unless absolutely necessary. So whenever, it's like getting sent to the principal's office, right? So whenever the quorum steps in, you know, shit's getting a little off track. And so with the big competition, the big sporting event that we had in November, the quorum had to get basically, what is it, a yellow card in soccer where it's like a warning, like red card, you're out of the game, yellow card is a warning. The quorum basically stepped in and gave the 4D negative entities a yellow card warning. So who are the 4D negative entities for those who are new here? And this is the first time you're hearing about this. They would be what you would consider in our vocabulary like demons. So fourth density, angels are fourth density, demons are fourth density. Okay? So that's the step above where we are. They're the entities that have made a choice to go in two different directions. So a lot of the people who are on the service to self path, the path of darkness, call it Luciferianism, the Illuma Shmati, whatever you want to call it, it's service to self. It's a religious choice. They will channel demons. And the reason why they do certain religious practices involving little people is because the darkness can't create anything, so it needs that life force. Yeah? So they'll channel these demons, give them what they want in order to get information, in order to take the power for themselves. And in return, the fourth density negative entities get even more powerful within their own realm. So they're taking, it's all a selfish act. So in reality, the 4D negative entities are all actually using the establishment on this planet for their own gain, where the establishment thinks they're using them for their own gain as well, for them to go to fourth. It's a, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Whereas for us, we don't want to hurt anybody on the light. We just want to help people. But they just want to help themselves. So within both the light and the darkness, there has to be free will and consent. Now, the darkness very much pushes the boundary on this. And they use a lot of manipulation tactics, like television, to get you to choose to give up your power, basically, to them. We even see this in the truther community. I mean, back in November, sorry guys, my nose is running so hard this morning. Back in November, I talked about this with Tamara, because a lot of people in the truther community were not planning on, we'll say, attending the competition and telling who they wanted to win the competition because they thought they didn't need to. That is a manipulation tactic from controlled opposition within our community of trying to get people to not give their consent so that it would make it easier for the 40 negative rulers to put their person in place. I hope I'm making sense. I know it's hard when we can't totally use the right words, but nonetheless, that's kind of the theory. And that's why so many people woke up at the last minute and went and participated. And so the quorum stepped in with the 40 negative entities around that time and yellow carded them and said, you are pushing the boundaries too much of people's free will. It's gotten out of hand. And if you keep doing this, you're going to depolarize. So the 40 negative entities were like, oh shit. If we tell our little minions, the establishment, the Illuminati here on planet Earth, to do all these things to rig the sporting event, then we're going to depolarize. It's not going to affect them. It's going to affect us. So what does that mean? These 40 negative entities, we're going to fall back without power anymore. They were going to lose their power. And so basically what happened is the 40 negative entities stopped responding to the channeling of the negative establishment here on planet Earth. Like, how comical is that? They're going to their little temples, doing their little rituals, and no one's showing up. No one's telling them. Like, the 40 entities, this is service itself. 40 entities aren't going to send a messenger and be like, hey guys, we got to back off for a minute. We got yellow carded. No, they're not even going to tell them. They don't give a shit. The 40 negative entities don't care about their minions here on Earth. They just want the power for themselves. And so that's why we're seeing such a complete meltdown right now, because all of these people who are following the negative path do not have any guidance right now, because their 4D negative entities got yellow carded by the quorum. And so they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. That's why we see Maxine Waters and all these people standing outside that building trying to do something, and they can't do anything because they don't have any guidance. Their coaches left, which is kind of comical. So that's who the quorum is. The quorum is like, it's the principal's office. It's like the referee. And the quorum never really, I mean, they will answer and respond to some of the light when light asks questions, but it's a little bit more gentle with the light, because entities of the light, even in spiritual, like guardian angels, they will not intervene. That's something really important to understand, because the darkness will try to trick you. We're going to get to that with Moses in a minute. The darkness will try to trick you to make you, that tact of manipulation where I said the boundaries of consent are a little bit gray when it comes to the 4D negative. But the entities of the light won't show themselves or interact with you unless absolutely necessary and you're asking for help. Otherwise, they allow you to live out your own free will. So I hope you guys understand that's what the quorum is. So this is the first time, and the Cassiopeians speak about the quorum a lot going forward. I mean, this is 1994, so this is when this all started. So as of now, with the Cassiopeians, people know who the quorum is now. Okay, so Laura asks, what is the quorum? Deeper knowledge organization, totally secret to your kind as of yet. Very important with regard to your future. In what way? Changes. Can you get more specific? Is that changes to us personally? Partially. Earth changes? Also. What is the relationship between this quorum and the Cassiopeians? They communicate with us regularly. Do they do this knowing you're Cassiopeians, or do they do it thinking? Answer, yes. Has there been an ongoing relationship between the Cassiopeians and this quorum for these thousands of years? For some time as you measure it. So again, that's why nobody can give you, all these people in the disclosure community are always like, yes, it's going to happen by this date or that date. It's not possible to give you dates, because even though we have certain events that are absolutely going to happen, when these events happen are unknown. Because of us, because of our actions and our consent. Like the Cassiopeians have said before, we should have already transferred into fourth density positive as a planet a long ass time ago. But because the darkness has done such a good job at manipulating the light, we've been stuck kind of in the gray. If everybody on the planet today decided, I'm going to make a choice to go positive, it would be over in 5 minutes. But because people are so brainwashed, even within, especially within the seeker, within the disclosure community, especially, if you're one of those truthers that thinks you're awakening your soul by pulling tarot cards to see what Galactic Federation you're fighting at night on your dragon, then you're part of the problem, because that's disassociation and delusion. You're a human being. Your soul came to planet Earth to be a human being right now. If your soul wasn't supposed to be doing human shit, it wouldn't be doing. You came here as a human, not as some like secret double agent spy who's on a dragon battling Xena warrior princess every night. Like, that's not, this isn't Star Wars. That's not your role. Are there aliens, life out there, extraterrestrials doing stuff? I believe so, yes, but that's not who you are. You're a human. You might have, I know anybody who's Rh negative like myself, we absolutely have extraterrestrial DNA in us, but we're still earthlings. We're humans. You gotta human. You gotta be present in your human life. You gotta do your shadow work. You gotta work on your soul. Your soul came here to refine itself. It did not come here to disassociate and to go into mental delusion, into crazy making. So, all you truthers, you so-called truthers out there that are spending your time creating fantastical stories about your life, you're the problem. Because in doing that, you're consenting to delusion, which is a negative polarity. Now, sometimes delusion happens not on purpose, and that's within the laws of forgiveness. But at this point in the game, you should be well aware right now that if that's what you're doing, you're falling under controlled opposition to still your soul. You're making choices that are pulling you more into the gray versus the light, which is keeping us all stuck here, which is what the darkness wants. Because in order to pull a 4D negative, or in order for a 4D negative positive to pull from the light to give them more power, they're going to target people who are already spiritually aware. And that goes the same into like spiritual attacks, right? If you live a life of complete solitude, you're not going to get spiritually attacked. These 4D negative entities only have so much energy, just like we only have so much energy in a day. They're not going around attacking people just for shits and giggles. They have specific targets that they look for to try to pull people away from the path. We see this in the Law of One. We see this in the Emerald Tablets. So there is this overriding spiritual law of karma that what you attract, what you need to work on is what you attract, right? And yes, so in the bigger scope, when things happen to you in life, it's a karmic lesson that you're trying to learn, that your soul is trying to learn. However, there are mitigating circumstances to this. The Law of One speaks of this. The Cassiopean speaks of this. It's called negative greetings. There are some times when you are on the initiate's path, which we're going to get to that with Moses. When you are on the path of light and you're doing a good job and you're working hard and you're refining your soul and you're helping others, that is when you become a bigger target of the darkness. And they're not necessarily going to try to unalive you. No. What they're going to try to do is turn you, right? Because you have more nutritional dense value to them, right? And so they're going to try to turn you. If you can turn someone who's of the light, especially a wanderer, who's service to others into service to self, you have just leveled up as a 4D negative entity. I talked about this with my group call I did on Sunday. My channel, there are like chains around my channel. I am so shadow banned. If you are a spiritual channel and you think that you are doing good, but you're not shadow banned, then you're obviously not a threat to the darkness. So you might want to rethink your teachings, because they're not going to let the darkness is going to do everything in its power to stop any goodness from getting out. Instead, they're going to try to manipulate and bring manipulate goodness and bring it to their side so they level up. They don't care about you. They just want your power. So for me, when I was filming with controlled opposition, before I realized these particular people were actually controlled opposition, were undergrounders, more specifically, which that's a totally different topic that we'll get into on a different day. When I realized that, before I realized that, when I was doing shows with them and I was under their thumb, my channel was huge because they can control it. They can come on my channel, they could do their thing and try to manipulate that information. But the minute I realized it and I said something and I stopped it and I put a boundary up and I started whistleblowing and got very much attacked by the flying monkeys of these bad people in the truther community, that's when they try to start to bury my work. And other things too that have happened off camera that I cannot get into because this isn't the time for that. You think about the manipulation. So how many people are out there for the last 5 years or more have been saying these certain things are going to happen and then they never happen? But yet the audience is like, oh my God, you're always right. No, they're not. They've never been right. They're just manipulating you and getting you distracted, keeping you in the junk conspiracy cul-de-sac so you stall. So there's a stall. It's almost like what happened with Kash Patel, right? There was a stall in getting him in, and now there's even more stall with the certain list that we're waiting for. That's what's happening in the seeker community too. Anyway, so I highly suggest reading The Law of One. It makes so much sense when you read it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You totally understand what's happening. You get what's happening. You see the playbook, and it helps you make better decisions. I feel like that's what's happened for me. Now, again, when he says for some time, as you measure it for these thousands of years, what he's talking about, or what they're talking about, is that our time, like I was saying, these truthers who are like, oh, it's going to happen at this date or that date, or it never happens. It's because time cannot be measured in this war. Because when things happen, we know certain events will happen, but when they happen are up to us. So the stalling that's happening is to try to prevent certain things from happening so we don't go positive. So they can hijack a positive planet and bring it negative. One thing I love about the Cassiopeians and the Law of One is they don't really rarely do they use the word prophecy or destiny. Instead, they use the word probability, which I like better because probability means that it's likely to happen, but there's still a chance it won't. And so when we understand probability, we don't rest in our laurels. We continue to work to make sure that probability of good becomes a reality. But if you've been conditioned to think that prophecy is set in stone, then you're going to sit back and not do anything while the bad guys walk right into the front door. This is common sense. The bad guys of this world are many things, but stupid ain't one of them. They knew that a certain amount of people were going to wake up. They knew that. And so they already had truthers in place to distract you. And so when we have these truthers saying that's going to happen at this date or that date or this date, which it never happens, it's because time can't be measured. Because it depends on us. If someone tells you, oh, we're going to transfer into 4D on March 15th, and you think that's coming, the good is coming on March 15th, you're going to sit back and eat bonbons and not do anything, not work on your soul. And so then it gets delayed. That's their point, is they're trying to get you to not work on your soul. Okay, so yes. So time cannot be measured. So nobody of the light is ever going to truly give you a date. Like even when Tamara does her forecast, she's giving you a forecast of what the planets are doing at particular times. And so for you as an individual, this is the feelings that might arise. So you're aware of it, and so you can use it to your advantage. The friction can be used to like heal yourself. Yeah? All right. Okay, where are we here? Hi, you guys. Editing Bryce here, and I thought this was a good place. I meant to do this at the beginning of the video, but I got so excited about talking about the Cassiopeians that I totally forgot. So I thought this was a good place to enter this in. Of course, because we are so shadow banned on this channel, without our sponsors or our Patreons or our producers, this work would not be possible. It would not be possible for me to be able to do this day in and day out if I did not have income coming in. And part of the income that is coming in is basically from what I do for a living. So since we're talking about spiritual development and philosophy and theory, as many of you know, if you don't know, if you're new, I am the only female in the state of Georgia who is authorized from KPJAYI in Mysore, India, to teach old traditional Eastern philosophy. And before 2020, before I was on YouTube, I taught daily Mysore classes, and then I came to YouTube when the world shut down, and I've been here ever since. And so it's been wonderful to be able to take the opportunities that I've had in life, which not many people get to experience in the Western world, what I've experienced, which is spending a good portion of my 30s in India and actually learning this sacred ancient teaching. And a lot of this teaching has greatly affected me, along with the Law of One and the Cassiopeians. It's really helped me understand my role in this life, not for the world, but just more for myself and what my soul is. And so as of a few months ago, my friend Paula down in Australia, you guys know I got karma with Australia. I love my Australians, literally my Australians. I call y'all mine. You're not mine, but you know what I mean. The Australians are some of my most favorite people in the world, besides my own country. The best times. I've been so lucky to travel the world, to live in all sorts of different countries, and Australia being one of them. And I absolutely love Australia. Besides my own country, it's my favorite country, and I feel like there's a lot of similarities between Aussies and Southerners, specifically a lot of that same personality type. So of course, karmically, I would open up a virtual mystery school with one of my dear friends, Paula, down in Perth, Australia. And I wanted to take this time. So if you're new to spiritual pursuits and you're like, oh my God, you're having this like crazy, I don't know what to do now, I feel like I've been duped, don't worry. Of course, you absolutely don't have to come and learn from us. You can learn from anybody you want, but I am going to take this time just to show you guys what we've done. And so we've opened up the Esoteric Academy, and we've given different memberships. And so we've kept this as cheap as possible. As you guys know, martyrdom is of the darkness. So you never want to give any teachings away for free. So let's just nix that right now. You can't. That's vampirism or enslavement, to feel like a spiritual teacher should be enslaved to you. However, there is such things as extortion, and we never want to charge too much. And so what Paul and I have done basically is we've taken a bunch of work and we've put it up on the Esoteric Academy. And we are charging as very little, basically just enough for now to cover the expenses of the actual platform, to keep the platform up, and a little bit of kickback from us. We're trying to save money right now to be able to get even better filming equipment to make this even better. But we have two categories. We do have a free category where you can go level 1. There's a bunch of free stuff on the free website. I'll put a link down in the description box below. But we have a $25 a month category and a $40 a month category. Now, the $25 a month and the $40 a month, these are both extremely low prices for what you're getting. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of courses and information. And so the Esoteric Alchemist is, I believe, the $40 a month, where you get all these different courses and meditations. You also get live calls with us, and then with that also you get the exercise. Let me see if I can find it here. So here are all the courses we have so far: Alchemy of Movement, all the Ashtanga Yoga course, and that's and also the exercise classes. But then if you just want to do the exercise classes, it's only $25 a month. And what I have done basically, because exercise is a huge part of the foundation of spirituality for many reasons. We don't have time to get into that in this class or in this episode. But I have taken, and Tamara did predict this in my chart back in 2020, I have taken my education from India, my philosophy of chakras, bandhas, the self, the shadow work, and I've taken everything from a traditional template and I've put it into more modern, more accessible movement. And Paula's even divided them up into different sections, so you can kind of pick what you want. And so we also have Cindy Ola is going to be submitting some classes. We have the Ashtanga Sun Salutations and Standing Sequence. I am going to also be doing a quarter primary series this week for you guys, live exercise classes. We also have a little alchemist class for children. And so this is a great way to start. It's so cheap. It's so cheap for what you're getting. The tuition is so cheap. I am constantly adding between 2 and 4 new exercise classes a month, so the library is only going to grow. Plus, you get a live class with me every single month, plus our live calls. And if you're on the 40, again, if you're on the $40 a month, you're constantly getting new courses. I just finished Health, Healing, and Beyond, which comes from some of the teachings of Krishnamacharya. And I'm about to start a whole new course, filming a whole new course based more off of Desikacharya's teaching. And my goal and Paula's goal in this academy is to literally give everybody a plethora of different types of lineages and teachers to pick from. We're only having master teachers on this platform. That's it. And so you have every single person that we bring on is qualified. Todd Roderick himself is doing a lot of stuff in the Law of One that we're speaking about now in the Cassiopeians. And he'll also be doing a Vedic chanting course soon. So if that's something you're interested, I am going to put the link down in the description box below. All this money also helps support Esoteric Atlanta too, and Paula's channel as well. And so it really helps us out to get the information out to help try to share and help people gain their sovereignty back and gain their freedom back and to get their power back, so they come into their bodies and into their life here as humanly possible. What we're going to see in this coming up in this reading on the Cassiopeians from 1994 is they talk about there's not a whole lot you need to do at this moment to prepare your body for the change. But as we know now, more current readings of the Cassiopeians, as we get closer to that moment, they're starting to say actually probably should start doing some resistance training just to make sure your body is strong. And so there's lots of different reasons to do this, you guys. And so that will be down in the description box below for you, so you can check it out. You do get, just so you guys know, I just want to reiterate, you do get 7 days of a free trial. So if you're not super sure, but you want to just experiment, you have 7 days where you get access to everything just to try it. And then if you decide in those 7 days that it's not for you, no problem. You can always cancel your membership. No big deal. Otherwise, after that 7 days, you'll enter into the program. And we got so many amazing, amazing people. We do also have a community board that I did not show online because it's private, where you can have your satsang, your community of shalamates, people going through the same thing with you all over the world that you can form friendships with and have that support with. And so again, that will be down in the description box below if you're interested. All right, let's get back to this juicy, juicy stuff from the Cassiopeians. Did I lose my place partially? Okay, here we go. What is the quorum? Deeper knowledge organization, totally secret to your kind as of yet. Very important with regards to your future. In what way? Changes. Can you be more specific? Is that changes to us personally? Partly. Earth changes also. What is the relationship between this quorum and the Cassiopeians? They communicate with us regularly. Do they do this knowing you are the Cassiopeians, or do they do this thinking yes? Is there a relationship between the Cassiopeians and this quorum for thousands of years? Sometime as you measure it. What is the origins of the Kabbalah? Channel truths given to early pre-Mosaic Jews to use your terminology. When the Jewish commentators began setting down the teachings, was this the first time this had been put into writing? No, not even close. That's what I was saying in the beginning. We've been trained and programmed to believe that where we are historically now is the height of our civilization. This is the most modern we've ever been. But if you look at actual history, that's laughable. We're cavemen compared to Atlantis, Tartaria, Lemuria, Mu. We're cavemen compared to where we come from. Is the form that is in today very close to the original form, and can it be relied upon? No, corrupted. So that's what I was saying. The original form of the Kabbalah was good. But now it's been corrupted. That's what the darkness does. What is the origins of the books of Enoch? All right, Christians, you fundies, you listening to this? Little humility here. A Sanskritian society in the area now referred to as India. Interesting. My word. Because if you read the books of Enoch, and then you read the Mahabharata or the Ramayana, or any type of Hindu text, guess what? They're pretty much identical. So riddle me that, fundamentalist. If you think that there's some sort of pecking order where your opinion of God is the elite opinion and all these other people are going to hell, then how come the book of Enoch is from a Sanskritian society from India and also looks ironically very similar to the Mahabharata and the Ramayana? Remarkably similar. Could it be that we all have the same nucleus understanding of God? And maybe, perhaps, we're all God's children? Isn't that groundbreaking, Christians? That every single freaking person on this earth that has a soul is a child of God. Does not matter what opinion they have of God that translates into their religious, cultural practices. Interesting, isn't it? You know, that's a sign of the darkness, of the negative. The negative believes in a pecking order. They believe that there are certain people who are elite. A real God, the real side of light, would never have a chosen people. God doesn't have favorites. There's equal love and value with all of us. One of the most disturbing comments I got on my J.D. Vance video that really made me want to vomit, when I said I was wrong about J.D. Vance. I thought he was a fundamentalist Christian, but I was wrong. And I'm actually a huge fan of J.D. Vance now, and I apologized to J.D. Vance for being wrong about him in the past. I actually I hope he continues in his political career, because he makes me proud to be an American, and I support him. One of the reasons that I clicked out of him being like, it clicked with me when I realized his wife is a practicing Hindu. A fundamentalist Christian would never marry a practicing Hindu. Never. So he's obviously not fundamentalist. He's obviously pretty open-minded to worshiping God in the way that you see fit for you. And I got a comment that said, oh, but that's the perfect thing. You can marry a Hindu and then teach her about Jesus. I wanted to vomit. First of all, to marry somebody with this mwahahaha Machiavellian plan to change that person isn't love. That's not love. You don't marry somebody because you want to change them. You marry them for them. He married Usha for Usha, Hindu and all, because that's who she is. That's her cultural heritage. That would be like me marrying, I don't know, a French dude and moving to France and then being told that I could never speak English again, or I could never look at an American flag, that I had to give that part of myself up, which in this life, that's part of myself as an American. That to give all of my history up, my ancestors that fought in the American Revolution, all of that needed to be forgotten about, because now I needed to be French. But before we married, you were cool with me being an American. So you married me to try to now force me to be something else that I'm not? That's not love. That's manipulation. That's the opposite of love. And also, to believe that he's right and she's wrong is the height of arrogance. They're both right and they're both wrong. Even though I'm disgusted with the Christian church, that's the religion I was grandfathered into, so it's the one I inherently, intrinsically in my soul know the most about, and it makes me the most angry because I see the manipulation. That doesn't mean that every single person who goes to church is bad. Even though the church itself is bad, it's program negative. Really all religions are. Any religion that has elitism or a priest is already inherently of the negative side. But that doesn't mean that every single person that walks into that church is going to go negative, because it's about the intention. It's about the intent. Ross says that in the Law 1. It's not about your actions, it's about your intention. So let's look at that in the truther community, right? So people who are being nasty and want this vigilante violence and are out there threatening people on Telegram, and they think that they have a right to do that, because they're awake, they can do that. They can make that choice to do that, but that choice they're making to hurt other people in their selfish attempt for an ego boost is putting them on the negative. It doesn't matter what you know. What you know doesn't matter. It's how you behave that matters. It's the choices that you make on a daily basis that matter. The establishment, the bad guys, know just as much as you do, probably more, and they're going negative. And so when we get into this place of waking up, when we see the corruption around us and we're able to look at it, what that's supposed to do is inspire you to work on yourself, to have more compassion for people. There are so many normies out there that are incredible people. They don't know about the corruption going on in the world, but it doesn't matter because they're making good choices every day to be of service to others and to love others. All these truthers out there that are making up stories about people being the opposite gender. And as my boyfriend said it, he was like, you go on Telegram and you see these women on Telegram that are creating these stories out of their own imagination that these beautiful Hollywood women are actually men. And you know, it's just these women that are fat and frumpy and that were made fun of in high school. And now they get to be the mean girls and they're just mean girling. They're just being cruel to other people. So if you're being mean girls and you're being cruel to other people just because you're insecure with yourself, does that make you a positive or negative polarity? Negative. Because you're choosing to try to hurt somebody else because you are insecure with your own self. Does that make sense? I know I went off on a tangent in that, but I really, like, it breaks my heart. Like, it makes me want to cry when I see the way some of these truthers behave. The cruelty, the evil. And I said at this beginning, and I say this to my boyfriend, I shake our heads all the time. We're like, damn, the Aluma Schmati are Care Bears compared to these people. These people are going to have us living in a handmaid's damn tale. These people are going to be the people that are going to sentence you to unaliving if your opinion slightly varies from them on God. There's more wokeism, and I'm definitely glad. I've been seeing way more videos from bigger content creators, like more political content creators about this, and I'm really grateful. There is more wokeism in the truther community than there is in the woke community. Like, if you sit back and really watch what's happening on Telegram, and I will say it's because of this controlled opposition. And we're going to get to that with Moses. Get to that with Moses. So you woke up, you realized you were being lied to, you went to find a community to help figure out what was going on. All of a sudden you started to feel better than other people, like you somehow were better than others because you figured something out that somebody else didn't. And so now all of a sudden you're walking around with this sense of arrogance and this sense of that you're the judge and the executioner and you can say what's what because you're awake. Darling, if that's you, you better be glad we're still in the gray because now you have time to course correct and self-reflect on why you're doing that, why you're projecting your hatred and your vitriol out on innocent people. Instead of sitting back, working on yourself and allowing law and order, allowing the evidence to come forth instead of just your opinions. Opinions aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. Facts are facts. Anyway, let's continue. What elevation can we give the books of Enoch as far as the level of truth? 50% of area was destroyed in, I don't think I can say that, in between what? Then and now and the extended present. What is the extended present? The real measure of time. So they're saying there are all these things that happened that corrupted parts of the original teachings of Enoch. Who was, and I'm not going to say the H word here because I noticed that that's been getting a little bit flagged. So yeah, basically the Emerald Tablets, the other version of the Emerald Tablets, not Thoth, but the other version. A traitor to the court of the Pharaoh Rana. Who is the Pharaoh Rana? Egyptian leader of the spiritual covenant. Which we know that the real Yahshua the one that you guys called Jesus, was not Jewish. He was Egyptian. That's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. He was not Jewish. He was Egyptian. The Essenes were Egyptians. So was Magdalene. He had Jewish students. Now think about this. Riddle me this, Batman. Does it matter? Does it really matter what someone's race or culture is? No. Doesn't matter. A good teaching is a good teaching. So why would they make him Jewish? Why would that matter? Is it because of a family that's first name starts with their last name, their surname starts with an R and ends with a child? Is it to get you to value the chosen people? Again, remember, the real God doesn't have a chosen people. And I'm not talking about 99.9% of Jewish people. I want to be very clear about that. Like, you're just like us. Like, we're good. We're good. I'm talking about the powers that be in this world, the establishment that are manipulating on purpose. So if you're taught growing up in your religion that the Jewish people were God's chosen people and that Jesus was Jewish when he wasn't, he was Egyptian, and then all of a sudden these audacious crimes are exposed, but yet you're taught that this is God's chosen people, do you see the manipulation? It's like when you catch your boyfriend cheating because you had the nerve to like check his phone, which yes, is breaking privacy, but your gut told you to look at it and you look like, hey, look, dude, you've been cheating on me. And your boyfriend goes, you broke my promise. Like it's the flipping of the blame. That's what's happening here. Yahshua was Egyptian. His teachings were for everyone, though. It doesn't matter. He didn't care what your race, gender, culture was. He didn't care. He talked to the Gentiles, the Jewish people, whatever. It was for everybody. Just like India, their teachings are for everybody. But then to change the story to make him Jewish and then say that that's God's chosen people. You remember the Egyptians, they worshipped one God. In the Torah, it's the Elohim, which no Mormons, that's not the name of God. That means multiple beings. It means multiple beings, Elohim. It's not someone's name. So we have the Egyptian leader of a spiritual covenant. So there was this Pharaoh right here, which I can do more. If you guys want me to do, I can see what I can find on Pharaoh Rana. Egyptian leader of the spiritual covenant. The Egyptian Book of the Dead are the Ten Commandments. Moses stole them. Why do you think the pharaohs or the army of Egyptians were chasing after Moses? They wanted their damn book back. They wanted their book back. He stole it. But he practiced black magic, and that's what he did. All this parting of the sea nonsense, this was black magic. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. So in what way was the other writer of the Emerald Tablets, again, I'm not going to say it's the name of a scarf and purse company too, a very expensive one, a traitor, broke covenant of spiritual unity to all people in the area known as the Middle East. You guys have just figured out why my nose is running so, sorry, well, ADHD here. I just figured out why my nose is running so bad this morning. I changed my nose ring. My other nose ring fell out and I don't know where it went. So I went ahead and put another one in just to make sure. I mean, I'm sure I could take it out and the hole would still be there because it's been there for a very long time. But I think it's itching my nose. I think that's why my nose is bothering me so much this morning. So I might have to take it out. I apologize. I'll try to keep going though. Broke covenant of spiritual unity of all people in an area known as the Middle East. Who did this guy betray himself? He was power hungry. What acts did he do? Broke covenant. He inspired division within the ranks of Egyptians, Essenes, Aryans, and Persians, etc. What is his purpose in doing this? Divide and conquer as inspired by those referred to as the Brotherhood. I'm going to not finish that sentence just because of words and because of the regulations. So please pause this and read it for yourself. Is this Brotherhood of the Snake, this guy formed in rejection of unity? He did not form it. It was long since in existence. Who is the originator of this Brotherhood of the Serpent as described in this book? Lizard beings. Where did Moses get his knowledge? Us. Okay, this goes back to what I was saying before. about how people get pulled off the path. We've talked about Moses before a lot, especially when we read the missing books of Moses, which are all spell books. Those were fascinating. Those were freaking, talk about gossip and juicy gossip. That's where we learned. Let's circle the block and go back to that. That's where we learned that Yahweh was the name for Moloch. Interesting. How many Christians go around like hippy dippy Christians being like, we love Yahweh. Yahweh is Moloch, y'all. You need to do your research before you start saying you love certain gods. Yahweh is Moloch. The priests of Yahweh were Moloch priests. And also Jehovah was a demon, or is a demon. So riddle me that, Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh man, there's these Jehovah's Witnesses that are outside of Piedmont Park. We live right by Piedmont Park. And no, again, to everybody, I'm not doxing myself. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who live around Piedmont Park. It's like Central Park in New York. Good luck finding me. But every time we go down to the, sorry, I have to spell this word because Robbie's in here. The P-A-R-K for a W-A-L-K. There's always the Jehovah's Witnesses standing there with their pamphlets. And I never say anything to them. They never stop us. But my boyfriend was like, oh my God, what are you going to do if they stop you? I said, I think I'm just going to tell them I'll take your pamphlet and read your pamphlet if you promise me you'll go and read the missing books of Moses. I'm not going to tell them what's in the missing books of Moses. But I'm going to encourage them. I'll say, I'll make a deal with you. I'll read these pamphlets. You can come back and check with me as long as you read those pamphlets. And then we'll compare notes. All right. So with Moses, we do know that Moses he was originally of the light when he started his journey as a human being. As the Cassiopeians said, he got information from them. He was originally service to others, but he quickly got turned. This is what I was saying back at the beginning. If you're of the light, they're going to try to target you more because they want to turn you. And that's what happened with Moses. We know that the lizard beings, all the stuff that Moses claimed to see, the burning bush, Mount Sinai, all that stuff was created by lizard beings. It wasn't good entities. It was bad entities mimicking good entities. My friend Cindy says when she does a lot of her work that whenever an entity comes into the session that purports to be of the light, she always asks it a question. The one simple question is, are you here for unconditional love? And they have to answer the question because of free will. And so if they're not, they say no. And she dismisses it. Because they come in, these manipulated entities come in with saying all the right things, doing all the right things, but they're doing it to manipulate you, to pull you into service to self. So that's the question to ask. Are you here for unconditional love? If the answer is no, it's not a being of the light. It's a manipulation. All right, where did Moses get his knowledge? Us. Okay, so you told us before that he saw or interacted with a holographic projection created by the lizard beings. Was that the experience on Mount Sinai? Yes. Okay, well, if he got knowledge from you, did he get this prior to the interaction with the lizard beings? Yes. He was corrupted by imagery. He was deceived by the imagery a la Joseph Smith, for example. So we talked about Joseph Smith for the Mormons. So Joseph Smith saw, basically what they're saying is that Joseph Smith also saw, so the recollection that Joseph Smith had of seeing God and Jesus as two separate beings, not one, and also seeing this angel named Moroni, that really happened. He didn't make that up. However, it was a lizard being manipulating Joseph Smith. And if you look at Mormonism, just like all the other religions, Mormonism more than the others, though, really shows its true colors, that it is very much a negatively polarized religion. Now, I just want to something funny also, just for the Mormons out there, because I love Mormons. Mormons are like really nice people. I have nothing against Mormons. They're super nice people, very innocent. But just so you guys know, if you grew up Mormon, y'all are the only people that have the angel Moroni. I talk to so many Mormons and they talk about Moroni just like Archangel Michael or Raphael. And I'm like, oh my God, they don't even know that Moroni is literally a Mormon thing. That is not in any other Christian text. He's not an angel in any other Christian text. So Moroni is specifically Mormon. So for the Mormons out there, when you start talking to your like Protestant friends or Catholic friends and you just start shooting the shit about Moroni, they have no idea who you're talking about. And obviously, because Moroni was a lizard being pretending to be an angel. All right. Are you saying that Joseph Smith, the recipient of the Mormon text, was deceived by the lizards also? Yes, they do that a lot. Why did it take so long for us to get a good source through this medium? So it took, you can go back and read the Riding the Wave series that Laura wrote. And this is why, like, my boyfriend always says that the only channeling that he will take seriously is this and the Law of One. That's it. He doesn't take any other channeling seriously. Because to channel properly takes years and years and years of training. If you just start channeling without any training, one of two things are happening. Either that's your imagination, your ego, or you're being used by a lizard being. So that's a really good thing to know. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Like, you don't get to leapfrog to the end. You have to go through training, years of it, not a 200-hour course. Laura went through decades of training. I've been through decades of training, and I don't even channel. I don't like to channel because of this shit. Because of this. I try to keep myself very like locked down. Although I know anyway, other story for a different day. But just for the public, I'm not going to get into the privacy. Just for the public, I'm trying to keep that locked down for me because I don't want to be manipulated. I feel like I'm pretty good at now spotting manipulation or being a little bit more discerning. But something for you guys to just take into consideration, that when you are channeling, if you have not been trained and you think that you were just born this way, that's where they're going to hook you to pull you negative, right? Yes, we are all born with certain abilities that can be harnessed, like Jessica Jones, my friend, the Cryptid Huntress, who remote views. She's been through a shit ton of training, and she's very careful. She's very careful about how she does this. She's very aware of manipulation. I'll give you guys a funny story about some of the abilities that we are born with that we have to work on. So you can't just, it's not just raw talent, right? You have to actually go and refine it. I was watching some stuff on Scientology the other day. I think I was like driving in the car, and they mentioned something about one of the powers, the superpowers that L. Ron Hubbard claimed you would get with Scientology would be the ability to feel direction. Like you wouldn't need a GPS anymore. And they were talking about how such bullshit that was, that that's not real. Yeah, it is, because I have that. That is one of my hidden talents, is I can feel direction. And my boyfriend is really bad with direction. I mean, this is nothing that's gonna like help or hurt anybody. This is just kind of funny. I'll never be lost, basically, but I can like feel. So if you tell me, if I'm with you, or if you're somewhere close by and you call me and say, hey, come find me, my body will pull in the direction where you are. And I was trying to explain this to my boyfriend, because my boyfriend's been very amazed at my directional abilities. I never get lost. I can always get us out of something. He's terrible at directions. And I was like, you can't feel this? Like, I feel it in my body. Like, I feel north, south, east, west. I feel it. Like, and when you say, like, if you said, go to New Orleans, like some people standing in Atlanta would know with direction. We know direction. New Orleans is southwest of us, but they don't know where south. I can feel it in my body. So that's something I was born with. But again, for me, it's refined over time because I've been in situations like India, like Africa, where I've had to use that skill. So it's gotten refined. However, that certain siddhi or whatever is not something that's ever going to like affect the free will of someone else or affect whether someone goes good or bad. It's just a life-saving tactic that I have that I've never lost. My parents used to laugh when GPS first came out. For the young people watching right now, there was a time a long time ago where before cell phones and smartphones were big, we had GPS in our car where you could have it installed in your car. It was like a thing to give you directions. And they gave my sister one, but my parents wouldn't get me one. And I asked, I was like, why does Mary Becca get a GPS and I don't? And my parents laughed. They're like, because you don't need it. Even when I was a little kid, they were like, you don't need it. You never get lost. You always find your way. So anyway, all right, so let's go. So that goes into the corruption. Why did it take so long for us to get a good source through this medium? So she's saying, why did it take us so long to actually make contact with you guys? Too many interactions with channel cancelers. Who are the individuals our channel cancelers? It would not be our way to name names. Do you mean people we have had involved in our lives? Yes. Does that have anything to do with our activities? No. Does it involve other entities that have tried to come through and have blocked the channel? Yes. Are they lizards? No. Are there any exercises we can do to help our bodies transform into fourth density? So before that, so they're saying even when you're channeling, you're going to get blocked sometimes and you're going to get manipulated. So again, that's why. And Laura had the training and the discernment through her training to know when she started doing this, when she was not picking up good entities or when she was being blocked from proper entities. And again, in 34 years now, these Cassiopeans have never lied to us. They've never infringed upon our free will, and they've never been wrong. And they've never encouraged any type of negatively polarized activities. Never. So, but with that being said, as my boyfriend says, even though this channel and Law of One are the two that he trusts, he still always takes it with a grain of salt, as do I. Are there any exercises we can use to help our bodies transform into fourth density? Not necessary. It's the soul that matters. Does that mean that if we focus on soul development, at the end of the transformation, that our bodies will automatically be transformed for us? No, it's a natural process. No preparation is needed. So if you are meant to transform, you will. If not, you won't. Yes. Does this mean that when the body reacts to certain foods that I should stop eating them? Is that my body trying to tell me something? Up to you. Nothing needs to tell you anything. This is key here. Nothing needs to tell you anything. You've got to do this research and hone in on your subtle body and your subtle body responses yourself. You don't need me telling you what to think. I always tell you in these videos, do your own research. That's why I've tagged the Cassiopeans down below. Do your own research. Do your own research. On this channel, I'm just bringing research to your attention. It's up to you to go back and research it for yourself and come up with your own opinions. Can you clarify that? Why are you searching for guidance where it's not needed? In other words, if you just do, well, let's talk about that. So are there certain YouTubers, truther YouTubers, that you feel like you have to listen to every single day for guidance? That's my question to you. Why are you searching for guidance where it's not needed? Did you go from watching CNN or Fox News or MSNBC? Did you click them off and didn't just turn YouTube on? I'm glad you watched. We're very glad you watched. But learn from those mistakes. Research what we're saying on YouTube. Don't just take it as fact. Don't take something you like to hear because it sounds good to you. It's what you want to hear. Don't take that as fact. In other words, if we just do each day what naturally comes to us as best choice in the moment, we're on the right track, precisely. If I find the information of transforming to the fourth density very exciting and natural, which is why I ask if this is going to be something I will experience in the future, excluding death. So the Cassiopeans don't really understand that. They're like vague. What are you trying to ask? If theoretically an individual, am I getting a very unusual feeling in this moment? Why? So she's trying to ask, she gets distracted. She's like, I'm feeling kind of weird. Metabolic changes enhanced by accelerated learning. So sometimes you start to feel weird because there's a change in the physical body from learning. Is this happening to all three of us? Yes. Now, I was starting to say, if theoretically an individual was developed in a natural way by making all the proper choices and was to arrive at the point in time when the major transformation is to be made, would that individual's body pass through into a heightened dimension, into a physical state? Remember, this is just a theoretical person, of course. So usually when you transfer, this goes back to what's happening on planet Earth right now, which is talked about in the Law of One and the Cassiopeans. Usually when you transfer to a higher state, when you can go forward, you go through the terminal of unaliving, of laying your body down, whatever you want to call it, on YouTube, and then your soul moves into a new body. But with this situation with Earth, because Earth is also transforming, we're going to ride it out. And those that aren't going fourth density positive will have to leave. As Todd said in our last interview on the Esoteric Academy, the Earth is not going to split. Anybody telling you the Earth is going to split, that's not true. That's not what happens. The Earth doesn't split. You don't split. The Earth is going positive. And those who are fourth density negative, the probability, we're still working on that, is to get the Earth to go positive. The people who are negative are going to have to leave the planet, as well as the people in the gray third density are also going to have to leave the planet. Okay. Now suppose this, okay, let's see. Now suppose this theoretical person were to pass through this transition to the other side. What state would they find their body in? Would it be exactly as it is now in terms of solidity? What would be experienced? The key concept here is variable of physicality. Does that mean everybody will be different or that an individual will have a greater control over the substance and constitution of the body? Not exactly either. Your physical will be a variable according to needs and circumstances. Okay, does this mean that sometimes we will be more of a light body? Close. Does this mean that sometimes we will be more of a firm body as we are now? Yes. Will our bodies age differently? Yes. What is the median lifespan? 400 years. And will those who pass through this transition as, say, 50-year-olds, will they have an equal opportunity to live an additional 400 years? Will regenerate in youthful appearance? Now, when you say 400 years, will it be that the plane has a different orbit and that the year will be different? No. And again, this is where time gets weird. And this is not talking about med beds, guys. Remember, med beds are of the darkness. We've had so many whistleblowers come out from the Illuminati that tell you you have to actually sell your soul to get in the med bed because immortality is of the darkness. This is not immortality. This is just an expansion of life. So what's going to happen is that as we move into this different density, our body is going to naturally, even though we might, like I'm 42. So I'll still be 42, but my regeneration of cells will probably go back to like what? My 20s, but I'm still 42. Does that make sense? So no, and our time is counted differently on this planet. And it's all weird. Different dimensions have different concepts of time. Will the days be different as to the lengths of time, light and dark as they are now? No, not the point. Planet will be fourth density as well. But will the days and the nights be different, and will the orbit be different? Will the axial angle be changed? You are thinking in terms of third density levels, or third level. You are thinking in terms of the third level density. The rules will be so totally different that physical inspired comparisons are mute. Like you can't, and that's the thing, like, I don't know. We can't talk about fourth density because we're not there. We're still thinking about the lives we live in third density. So they're saying like it's not even worth really talking about because it's a different reality. But I like the sunshine and birds singing and breezes. I just want to know if those things will be the same in some fashion. Can't you give a few clues? We must let you see for yourself. I've had an experience with praying mantis before. Who are they? Menturians. Where are they from? Orion. Are the Ryans bad guys? Subjective. So that means everybody's got free will, right? Well, what group do they belong to? Federation, as do the Palladians. Did they abduct me, or what is the source of this memory? It is a memory of a past life held in deep subconscious levels. What did they do to me? Retro programming for learning processes. For what? Lessons are to be learned by you, not told by us. Can't tell you that. They won't answer those questions for you. Now, my friend Cindy has talked about the praying mantises before too. Interesting, right? Why did the Greys abduct V? To try to encode her to destroy herself. Has she overcome this programming? Hopefully. There is always room for error. Remember, free will is the most important law of consciousness and creation. I had a dream about being a teacher and showing small children how to use light and color. Was this a precognition? Probably. Would this probability be within the next 10 years? Listen, open. We don't know. What is the meaning of the number 666 in the book of Revelation? Visa. Do you mean a credit card? Yes. Are credit cards the work of the 666 represents? Are credit cards the work of what 666 represents? Yes. Should we get rid of all credit cards? Up to you. Would it be more to our advantage than not to disconnect ourselves from the credit system? Isn't just a credit, also debit. Is that an affirmative? How are you going to do this? Well, do you have any suggestions? World will soon be having nothing but credit and debit. Have you not heard of this new Visa debit cards that is the future of money as controlled by the world banking systems, i.e. Brotherhood, i.e. lizards, i.e. Antichrist? If I don't have a credit card then I don't belong to the system. No, you will have no choices. Belong or starve. What happened to free will? Brotherhood, aka lizards, aka Antichrist, has interfered with free will for over 30,000, 309,000 years. They are getting desperate as we near the change. It is always my nature to rebel against that which I do not feel is good for me. Is rebellion against the system possible? If you are willing to leave the body as in death, croak, kick the bucket, yes. If we were to move, changes will follow turmoil. Changes will follow turmoil. Be patient. We would like to move into the country. Will it be possible to get along without a credit visa system with that kind of life? No. We're going to talk about this, guys. I think I'm just going to have to take my nose ring out, guys, because this is really bothering me. Are we going to have the kind of capacity of controlling everything and everyone, no matter where they are? They going to have the kind of capability of controlling everything and everybody, no matter where they are? Yes. So even if we moved to Ghana and built a log hut in the rainforest and didn't bother anybody, we'd still get sucked into this thing. Laura, you will feel the effect of the lizard beings desperate to push for total control, no matter where you go. This is inexpressively depressing. Do you understand why change will follow? This is the necessary path. Will it follow soon? You are slipping a bit. Refer to the literature of Bringers of the Dawn. Challenge will be ecstasy if viewed with proper perspective, which is not, we repeat, not a third level understanding. Is the reference cited Joan of Arc? Like in the reference cited, Joan of Arc is described as feeling ecstatic while burning at the stake. Is that what you mean? Sort of, but you need not to burn at the stake. Remember, Joan of Arc also was manipulated by lizard people. That's a small comfort. There's others ways to die. That's a small comfort. There are other ways to die. It's funny. You don't have to burn the stake, y'all. We are not speaking of death, Laura. If you listen to those who are firmly rooted in third level, this is when you run the risk of slipping into your knowledge learn, no matter how good the intentions are. Like, for example, L. What do you mean about L, Ghana? What do you mean about change will be ecstasy? What sort of change? Living through the turmoil ahead. Several books I have read have advised moving to rural areas and forming groups and storing food, etc. Disinformation! Get rid of this once and for all. This is third level garbage. Truthers, I'm talking to you. It's garbage. We will feel pretty helpless at the mercy of beings who can come in and feed off of us. Do we have someone on our side pulling for our team, throwing us energy or something? Who do you think you've been communicating with? Are you going to be able to assist us through the turmoil? Yes. Are you going to? Up to you. If we call, can we get your assistance? All you have to do is ask. Will you go through any periods when we may be cut off from help? You are never cut off. Oh, I don't want to suffer. You need not suffer. Stop thinking third level. I don't want anybody I love to suffer either. I don't want any pain. I've suffered enough. You are stuck at third level tonight. It's not just that. There is so much disinformation, you just don't know who to believe. I mean, how do you know? I mean, how do we know we can believe you? There are so many sources out there deceiving, and they do it so cleverly. Look at the Bible. For 2,000 years, people have believing that they deceive when you allow it. They deceive when you allow it. I know you are supposed to take some things on faith, but do you see any problems here? Yes, but you don't. What is my problem? A mental block. In the recent past, you indicated that chapter 24 of Matthew and chapter 21 of Luke were given by Jesus, Yahshua, after his extended sleep state. Now, both those chapters refer to the present time as being like the days of Noah. Is this a correct assessment? In a sense, and the individual events are yet undetermined. Well, the story of Noah tells us that Noah was told to build an ark. Symbolic. Yet Noah built an ark. Was it true that certain individuals, whoever they were, built boats or things to survive the terrible cataclysm? No. Look at it this way. Noah built a boat because it seemed like an enjoyable enterprise when the flood came through, It came in handy. See, so he built the boat not even for the flood. It just came handy because and the symbol is he prepared. He was mentally prepared. He had done the work. So it's not about a boat and riding the waves. He built his repertoire of self-assessment to be able to take the turmoil of change. All right. So you were saying that if we do what we do because we enjoy it, and that we will be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing whenever that happens, right? Close. So this is what the Bhagavad Gita says. Enjoy the work for the sake of the work. Be here in this turmoil, this friction of disclosure, and enjoy it. Because change is coming. And I want to go back to that whole thing about the 666 system of debit cards and visas. Basically, he was saying to give up your banking account, to stop using your credit cards. You can't escape the lizard beings right now. They're everywhere. We can't get out of this matrix. You're going to have to use the system, because to not use the system means you're going to starve to death. You're going to be a martyr. And we know being a martyr is of the negative path. So you're going to have to keep playing the system. You're going to have to keep using your credit cards, using your debit cards, your visas, as they call it, understanding what it actually is, knowing what the future coming isn't going to have this, but you can't sacrifice yourself right now. You're going to have to keep paying your bills, because if you get out of the system that the lizard beings have created, the 40 negatives have created, you're going to die. You're going to martyr yourself. There's no way to survive without it. But the intention is there. The intention with what you do. You're working every day on yourself. You're taking care of your family. You're loving your neighbors. You're refining your soul. And then you're using your visa to go buy food to feed your kids. Does that make sense? We cannot be in black and white thinking. That's what they're saying. They're saying here, yes, of course the banking system is corrupt. Of course it is. Of course it's controlled by the Lizzies. Of course. But what else are you going to do? You can't run off to Ghana. You can't run off and buy a plot of land and create a commune. That's disinformation. They're everywhere. They've been trying to create this cataclysm where they take over Earth for over 250,000 years. We're pipsqueaks compared to what they've done. So what you can do, what they're saying is the only thing you can do is work on yourself. Live in the system that they've created, because that's the only system you have to live in. To try to create a new system right now is disinformation, because change is going to come. You just got to work on yourself and make good choices. That's all you can do. All right. Are you saying that we will be led to do what we should do? Are you saying that we will be led to what we should be doing and where we should be? You will just fall into it. But if you force things, you run the risk of going astray. Am I correct in thinking that many people who think they are channeling are just channeling earthbound spirits, sometimes, are dead dudes, as they call them? Is it possible to channel dead people who have gone into the light? Sometimes. Would it be possible for us to do this with other people present so they could ask questions also? Yes. So is S under the influence of forces? Yes. Who? Who else? They're not going to say the name because of privacy. Is it acceptable within universal law to do spirit release work on people without requesting their permission? So this is a big one. You already do this without inquiry. Is it all right to do it without inquiry? It's open to debate, right? Open. Is it possible that we could be loading ourselves with karmic debt by sticking our noses in where they may not be wanted? Yes. So if you're out there going, I'm going to heal everybody and not ask their permission, you're open to do that, but you're collecting karmic debt because they didn't ask your permission. You're not better than them. You're not better than them. Just because you are awake to the truth, just because you are aware of spirituality and the spiritual war that's going on in our world right now, just because you're aware of that, does not make you better than someone who isn't. It doesn't make you better than someone who isn't aware of that. Get that. We need to get that. We need to let go of this arrogance. Be humble. So if you think I'm going to heal, I watched this show once where these truthers were going around and spiritually breaking all these contracts these countries had made with the dark side. What? That's not your permission to do that. Even though we want these contracts broken and severed, you can't go in there and do that. That's a coup. You have to allow the countries to vote for officials who will do that. You can't do that. You're building up karmic debt for yourself. You're serving your own self-interest in that moment. Would it be better to not do this without request? You must answer that within yourself. Yes, because when you're trying to heal someone or wake someone up by sending them light and love, you're doing that for your own self-interest, not for their betterment. If someone comes to you and says, I need prayers, I need your light, I need help, I need to be healed, then you're serving that other person. But if you're doing it without their permission, you're only serving yourself because you're arrogant enough to think that you have a right to do that you know better. For the greater good, right? For the greater good, I'm going to send light and love to this person without their permission. That is your own self-interest. That's not theirs. That's selfish. That's negative. Can one do a spirit release on another after asking the higher self permission? Too many conflicting thought patterns. You cannot ask the higher self. The higher self isn't here in the lower self. The lower self is the one that has karma. The lower self is the one that has to live out the consequences of actions, not the higher self. The lower self gets to make those decisions. Can one ask the higher self permission to do a cleansing? Be cautious not to interfere with karmic learning assignments. Yes, yes, yes. Be cautious do not interrupt somebody else's karma. We say that in yoga. Do not interrupt somebody else's karma. If you do that, that is your way of saying that you know better than the soul contract that person made with God. How dare you? How dare you? You don't know better than the soul contract that individual person made with God. And that soul contract that person made with God is none of your fucking business. Your soul contract is your business. Yours. Pay attention to your own backyard. I'm so glad they're talking about this because that pisses me off. And that's the manipulation, you guys. That's the manipulation people use. I'm going to send light to the world. This poor person is suffering, and I'm just going to go intervene and give them light. Stop. That's manipulation. You're serving yourself. Back off. That's none of your business. You worry about yourself. If that person comes to you and asks for help, that's when you help them. Don't interrupt their karma. Don't do it. Because by interrupting somebody else's karma, you're building your own karma. Your karma bank is getting bigger. You know what that means? More third density lives for you. Or service to self, service to negative 4D. Okay. Do some people have attachments that are part of karma? Yes. Let's go back to the subject of the beast and the number 666. You say that following the enforcement of control by the Lizzies on the entire world, that the change is going to, okay, let's read that again. Let's go back to the subject of the beast and the number 666. You say that following the enforcement of control by the Lizzies on the entire world, that the change is going to take place. Is that correct? Yes. How long following? Open. Several prophetic works have been said that this period is going to last 6.3 or 7 years. Is that correct? Open. We don't know. It depends on human consciousness. On the subject of 666, I was given an insight into this several years ago as another meaning. That is also interpretation. Hold on. On the subject of 666, I was given an insight into this several years ago as to another meaning of it. Is that interpretation also correct? Maybe. V1 is 6 in Roman numerals. S was 6 in ancient Egypt. A was 6 in Sanskrit. Visa C is 666. Interesting that to travel for an extended period of time, one needs a visa. Also, yes. I thought about that. Our ancestors didn't have passports. They didn't have passports. The other part of chapter 13, verse 1 said, I stood on the sandy beaches. I saw a beast coming up out of the seas with 10 horns and 7 heads. On his horns, he had 10 royal crowns and blasphemous titles on his head. What does this verse mean? Many meanings. Monetary control. 10 represents universal control of the whole units of the value. So the 10 horns represents units of value. So we were talking about money here. What are blasphemous titles of his head in God that we trust? And the beast that I saw resembled a leopard, New World Order. And to him the dragon gave his might and power to the great dominion. Who is the dragon? Read again, please. And the beast I saw resembled a leopard. What does the leopard signify? The leopard is fast-moving and distinctively patterned. His feet were like those of a bear. What does that represent? Russia. Why are the feet like those of a bear? Hidden power center and geographical location. What nature this power center? I think she meant to say, what nature is this power center? Same as US, feet are not easily seen. Does this mean that Russia and the US are secretly united, under same control? Are these the lizards at the root? His mouth was like that of a lion. What does mouth represent and why is it like a lion? Nosy and boastful. Who is nosy and boastful and how is this going to manifest? Economic power structure. Lion is powerful and commands attention by roaring. Who has been speaking loudly about the New World Order? The United States. Close. Elements of saying. One of his heads seemed to have deadly wounds, but his death stroke was healed and the whole earth went after the beast in amazement and admiration. What does this mean that one of his heads seemed to have a deadly wound? Aliens. The aliens will seem to be a deadly wound to the beast initially, but this death stroke was healed and the whole earth went after the beast with amazement and admiration. What does this mean? Initial fear gives way to the worship and admiration, which we see that before. That's the Elohim, right? Many people believe and speculate, myself included, that in many of these old religions, the demigods, they're called something else in the Bible. The deluge, I can't remember. They're called something else. The things that the entities we see as gods are actually aliens. That our ancestors were like, whoa, look at these flying saucers. That must be God, right? They fell down and gave homage to the dragon because he had bestowed on the beast all of his dominion and authority. Who is the dragon? World, body, politic. And who is the beast? New World Order, aka Brotherhood, aka Lizzie's, aka Antichrist. The beast was given the power of speech, uttering boastful and blasphemous words and giving freedom to exert his authority and exercise his will during 42 months. Time is open. Power of speech is self-explanatory in terms of audio and video media. And I've said this before in my whole deep dive into the missing books of the Bible. The only book of the Bible that I take seriously at all is Revelation. Sorry, it's just Revelation, not Revelations. And if you guys know, many of you might know, if you remember back to that time when I was going through the missing books of the Bible, Revelation, the book of Revelation for most of human history has been a banned book. It was only recently that it was allowed to be put back into the Bible. So those of you who can't stand that you want to censor these banned books of the Bible, first of all, you can't be anti-censorship like you say you are, but then also want books of the Bible censored. It doesn't work that way. You're not anti-censorship if you only want things that you like to be open to the public. That is the absolute definition of censorship. So if you want these missing books of the Bible to continue to be censored, then you're not anti-censorship. You are for censorship. And being for censorship means that you are automatically taking the knee to the beast, to enslavement and control. And for those who have a problem with the missing books of the Bible, let me remind you, do your research on this. Revelation, for most of human history since the Bible's been around, was a banned book of the Bible. Only recently in history was it added back to the Bible. So you can't say that you trust Revelation, but you don't trust the other missing books of the Bible, because Revelation was one of those missing books of the Bible for most of human history. Do your research on that. Do your research. Facts are facts. Facts don't care about your feelings, darling. They don't care about your wokeism and the truther community. They don't care about your facts are facts. They just are what they are. All right, time is open. Power. Okay, so we get to the video, social media that's coming up. Remember, this is 1994. So in 1994, all they really had was the TV, the radio, CDs. Cell phones were about to come out. The computer was starting to come out. But what we know now, so this was kind of them saying power of speech in terms of audio and video media. Remember, this is from 1994. So how I'm speaking to you now on Zoom was not a reality in 1994. And he opened his mouth to speak slanders against God, blaspheming his name and his abode, even vilifying those who live in heaven. Does this mean that this group, this beast, are going to disseminate disinformation with respect to encouraging worship, loyalty, and obedience to the Antichrist? To me, this is 99% of the truther community. 99% of them. He was further permitted to wage war on God's holy people and to overcome them, and power was given to him to extend his authority over every tribe and people and every tongue and nation. Does this mean trials and tribulations of those who refuse to submit? No. See previous answer. And all the inhabitants of earth will fall down in admiration, everyone whose name has not been recorded from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb that was slain and sacrificed from the foundation of the world. What are those whose names are recorded in the book of life? What is the book of life? A supercomputer. The book of life of the Lamb, everyone whose name has not been recorded. Is that saying that the people who are going to worship the beast are names that have not been recorded? Does that mean that there is a supercomputer recording the names of those who do not worship the beast? Yes. And who has that supercomputer? Beast, all names will be recorded as being either obedient or disobedient. Well, that's good, because we know that we all got 3-letter agency people watching us. I've definitely been disobedient. We're all heretics. Who is the Lamb? Beast. We know that Yahshua, Jesus, was never sacrificed. We know that from the missing books of the Bible. It's amazing how many Christians don't want to know that. Like when I found that out in the missing books of the Bible, I was so excited. I was like, liberation, you guys. Of course this makes sense. Of course he wasn't sacrificed. The real God, the God of light, would never do that. That's what the Luciferians do. And when I put that on my channel, oh my God, the threats that I got. It seems that most Christians want their blood. They want someone to give their life for them. How freaking narcissistic, psychopathic can you be? I don't want anybody to give their life for me. Your life is valuable. I can protect myself. But man, these Christians, they just demand that somebody be brutally unalived, brutally. They're entitled to that. They're entitled to somebody being brutally unalived for them. That's what the Lucifer, you Christians, you have way more in common with the Luciferians than you think, because that's what the Luciferians do. No different. If anyone is able to hear, let him listen. Whoever leads into captivity will himself go into captivity. If anyone slays with a sword will be slain. Herein is the call for the patience and the fidelity of the saints of God's people, who are God's people. All are God's people. Not, so listen to that, Christians. I want you to hear that. It's from Revelation. Are you listening, Christians? All are God's people. The Hindus, the Muslims, the Buddhists, the pagans. They're all God's people. Not just you, boo. Not just you. And you don't have a right. You don't have dominion over them. You don't have a right, especially in the United States of America. If you're a fundamentalist Christian in America and you're trying to impose your beliefs on other people in an aggressively violent way, shame on you. You're in contempt of the Constitution. As far as I'm concerned, shame on you. What does it mean? Whoever leads into captivity will go into captivity. Follow the leader. Funny. We're seeing that with the normies and with the truthers, right? If they follow the leader, they will become captive. And if they fight with the leader, they will be killed. Yes. Then I saw another beast rising up out of the land. He had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. What does this signify? Other faces of the same entity. What does it mean that he had 2 horns like a lamb? A lamb doesn't have horns. Why does it say he has horns? Confused by contradiction. And what does the lamb represent? The same face of the beast. What does it mean he spoke like a dragon? Same. He extends all the power and right to control as the former beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell upon it to exalt and deify the beast whose deadly wounds was healed and worship him. Well, it seems to say that there is a second beast that is different from the first beast, but you are saying that this is just another face of the beast. Yes, look at it this way. Aliens, one face, God another, government another, etc. Did you mean to say that God was another's face of the beast, as represented by religion? All religions are different faces of the beast. He performs great signs, starting miracles, even making fire fall from the sky to the earth in men's sight. What does that mean? Aliens perform miracles. What is the image of the beast? Aliens. What does it mean to have been wounded by the sword and still alive? Perceived as scary, then godlike. And he permitted to impart the breath of life into the beast image so that the statue of the beast could actually talk and to cause all to be put to death that would not bow down and worship the image of the beast. What does this mean? Total control once deception is complete. Compels all alike, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked with an inscription on the right hand or in their forehead. What is this inscription? Visa ID number. Is this going to actually physically be put on our bodies? Encoded. How? Is this what the aliens do when they abduct people? No. How is this going to be done? Stamped. By what technical means? Electronic encoding, a series of numbers. Are they going to put these on our skins or embed them into the skin or on our head and hands? Yes. Does this mean that you will place your hand on an electronic scanner in order to conduct any type of monetary transaction? Precisely. Okay, it says here is room for discomfort. A call from the wisdom of interpretation. Let him who has intelligence, penetration, insight, enough calculate the number of the beast, for it is the human number, the number of a certain man, his number 666. What does this mean? Visa, as explained previously. Everyone will get their own number, and it will be a Visa number, the number of the beast. I looked, and lo, the Lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 men who had his name and his father's name inscribed on their foreheads. What does this mean? ID. The Lamb is a leadership council of the World Bank. Many will think they are taking the mark of God when they are actually being marked by the beast. Interesting. I'm telling you guys, there is so much manipulation out there. Y'all know that though. I'm preaching to the choir. Y'all know that. And I heard a voice from heaven like the source of great waters, and like the rumbling of might, thunder, and that voice I heard seemed like music of harpists accompanying themselves on their harps. What is this voice from heaven and the sound like great waters and mighty thunder? The return of Christ. So what they're talking about, we're going to get into this. This isn't the return of Yahshua. What is the Christ? What is the Christ? It's not a person. It's the rising of your own awareness. And they sing a new song. No one could learn to sing the song except the 144,000 who had been ransomed from the earth. You said the 144,000 are the leaders of the World Bank, and here it says that they have ransomed from the earth at the coming of Christ. It says that the 144,000 have not defined themselves by relations with women, for they are pure as virgins. These are they who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They have been ransomed. Symbolism added later, and this is not entirely accurate point. The symbols have been mixed, tends to encourage elitism and divisiveness. And I can't wait to hear y'all's opinion on this whole lamb thing. This whole thing, people have been teaching that the Lamb of God, and they're saying, bro, yo, you sure that lamb's a good thing? Or is this another manipulation tactic? Are the 144,000 good guys or bad guys, as we would term them? Both. But they are the ones who have supreme knowledge. Are these human beings? Yes. Will there be 144,000 people on the earth who have super knowledge? Approximately. Now, this 144,000, are we among those numbers? Just curious. Maybe. No lie was found to be upon their lips, for they are blameless, spotless, untainted, without blemish. And I saw another angel flying in midair with an eternal gospel to tell the inhabitants of the earth, every race and tribe and people. And he cried with a mighty voice, revere God and give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has arrived. Fall down before him, pay his homage and adoration, and worship him who has created heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water. What does this tell us? added later by a questionable source. That's why you have to take everything with discernment, guys, even the Bible. Then a second angel who followed declaring, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all nations drink of the wines of her passionate unchastity. Who is Babylon, and what does it mean that she has fallen? Same as previous answer, so it was added in later to fool us. Another angel followed, a third, saying with a mighty voice, saying, whoever pays homage to the beast and permits his stamp to be put on his forehead or on his hand, he too shall have to drink of the wine of God's indignation and wrath poured undiluted into the cups of his anger, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Answer, disinformation intended to create fear and resistance so that the aliens can feed off of those emotions. Oh my God, Christian fundamentalists, you are so ripe. You are so ripe. Control your mind, people. Get a control of your mind. Have discernment. Have discernment. No one's better than you. There's no one on this planet that is better than you. There's no chosen people. So don't be getting into a system where you're told to worship certain people. Question. Again, I looked, and lo, I saw a white cloud sitting on the cloud, one resembling a son of man with a crown of gold, and on his head a sharp scythe in his hand. Is that further additions? Yes. Okay, so it doesn't matter because it's further additions. It's manipulation. Another angel came out of the temple, saying with a mighty voice to the one sitting on the cloud, put in on your scythe and reap, for the hour has arrived to gather the harvest, for the earth's crop is fully ripened. More fear-based disinformation. You guys, like, how liberating is this? How liberating is this? How liberating is this? You don't need to follow any freaking Bible books. You're good, boo. You're good. Because most of the shit in the Bible, even in Revelation, and I just previously said that was the one book in the Bible that I take serious, but even now it's like, hey, Bryce, even some of these have been added into Revelation. Of course, now looking back, of course they would have added shit. If they added it back to the Bible, they would have added in their own manipulative shit, right? We know that. Okay? So basically, whole crux of this is you got to work on yourself. You got to save yourself. You have to make right choices. You can't leave the system yet. To leave the system would be to commit martyrdom, which is bad, Don't follow any leaders. Even if they're YouTubers, don't follow me as a leader. I'm one of you guys. The Cassiopeians tell us that we have to network with each other. We got to talk to each other and figure this out together. That's all I'm doing. That has always been my intention at the beginning of starting this channel 5 years ago, was to be able to have a place where I can network with people, where I could say, hey, look what I found. Like, why are these stories about werewolves in Georgia? Can we look at this story about a werewolf in Georgia? Where are you from? Do you have similar stories? What do you guys think this means? That's all I'm doing. I'm not trying to lead you in this. I want to hear from you. I want to share your information too and share this stuff with you guys so that we can try to figure this out together and try not to get duped together. Now I've compared certain passages of Revelations to the work of Emanuel Velikovsky. Were those sections accurate in what they describe? Yes, and I actually want to get in the future into some of Emanuel Velikovsky's work. So if that's something that my boyfriend and I talk a lot about, like his work, we talk a lot about it. I have never talked about it on this channel before, and I've thought about doing that. I got to see how the dark journalist sometimes gets into his work, but I don't know how the YT is going to like, the beast is going to like us talking about his work. So let me know down in the comment section below if that's something you guys would like. We might have to do it over on the R platform, but nonetheless, just let me know. And those events will transpire after the Lizzies have done their thing, after the visa is in place, and after Christ returns before. So the cluster of comets is going to come down before the return of Christ. Yes, but return is to one event, not the whole thing. And again, remember, the return of Christ is awakening, is spiritual awakening. It's not a person. There's going to be a mass awakening of the rising of Christ consciousness. You guys, editing Bryce again. Just a little note here. After I got done recording this, before I started editing it, I went out and talked to my boyfriend about it. We were laughing about this whole Christ situation. So I want to give a little bit of a backstory here with Laura Knight. So again, this reading that we're reading from today on this episode is from 1994. So remember that as you're hearing the material, are looking over it yourself. That's why there's some confusion about Visa and debit cards, because it's coming from 1994. Now, over the course of Laura Knight's journey with the Cassiopeians, you definitely see her evolve as a spiritual person. Laura Knight, like my boyfriend, came, because they're cousins, from very Methodist people. And so when you see her speaking about the Christ here, you kind of see in this channeling a little bit of push and pull from the Cassiopeians and Laura. And for me, it was kind of shocking reading this because I know Laura Knight. Like, I have some of her books about her research into the Bible, which matches mine, but that was after this reading when she had already started, at this point of the reading, she had already started to wake up to the corruption of the Bible and the church, but she was still very much in that space of believing the propaganda, that's what it is, propaganda, that Christ was going to come back and save people. That's a really hard programming to break, especially in Christians. And if you didn't grow up Christian, it's because as we grow up Christian, we're told that if we don't believe this, we're going to go to hell. So there's a lot of fear based around this. And so in the last part of this reading, you see her still refer to Christ as a he. At this point with her talking about Christ, she doesn't refer to him as a he in present times because she's evolved. And she understands now that the Christ coming back is a consciousness, not a person. Now, what you see with the Cassiopeians in their dialogue with Laura is they slightly push back, but they don't push back enough because it needs to be her free will to figure this out. That we're not waiting for a person to come back and save us. This is the rising of a Christ conscious. And you kind of see this in the answer that they give in some of her questions, because this is 1994. And she asked, like, is he going to go around the world teaching? And they say, technically, what they mean by that is there's going to be mass media, like social media, and like people like us who've been working on this are going to be able to lend a helping hand in other people when it comes to the Christ consciousness. But what you're going to see here, in case that's confusing to you, is Laura still at this point in 1994 had not let go of that belief that she had to believe that Christ was coming back to save her in order to be saved. Was that still that last little bit of programming that hadn't relented yet with her? But now if you read the leadings 31 years later, it absolutely has relented with her. So, and I know for those who grew up Christian like me and like Laura, you absolutely get that. So anyway, on with the reading. Is there going to be a mass disruption on the planet and maybe a lot of people transitioning out of the body simultaneously because of the interaction of this cluster of comets to the Earth close? So there's going to be an event that happens. They've talked about this since then. Again, there's going to be an event that happens where a lot of people aren't going to survive it. But that's okay, because that's their karmic path. They need to go to another planet or go to fourth density negative. All right? And shortly following this event, Christ will return as part of the whole. So again, that's the consciousness rising. That is going to be part of the cluster of comets activity after. What is going to Christ do after he returns? So again, notice that he is not capitalized. Again, this is talking about the awakening of consciousness, teach. So we're going to be teaching. That's already happening, right? It's already starting to happen. How many people on the planet are going to receive teachings opening? Because people have free will choice, right? May we assume there will be 6 billion? Assume as you please. Doesn't mean your assumptions are accurate, right? You keep saying the return of Christ is a part of the whole, as though there is some important thing that I am missing to the question to discover. Consider the question asked. Tell me what I am missing, please. Obvious if you have been paying attention. And that is the transition to fourth density. Is the transition to fourth density going to happen before the comets or after? After. Is the interaction of the comets and the planet Earth going to precede the transition? Is it going to generate this change in some way? No. It's not going to have anything to do with the electromagnetic interactions, which would heighten the atomic vibrations of the planet? No. So the comets are going to make a mess of things, and then the transition is going to come as Christ comes before. The transition will happen, and we will be standing around glazed in the eyes or whatever, wondering what to do with ourselves. Hey.
All right, you guys, I literally editing Bryce again. I literally just made a little blip in this video about this, but my boyfriend came home and instead of editing this out, I'm going to leave it in for you because you can actually hear me tell my boyfriend about how hysterical it is that Laura's like, but the Bible says that you can tell she's still very much indoctrinated still with the church and how the Cassiopeians are trying to be patient with her. So I'm going to leave this little bit in just so you guys can get a chuckle. We'll call this the blooper reel of this video, but then we're going to get back into it. This is 1994, so Laura's like, but the Bible says, and they keep telling her that she's got third density thinking. But the Bible says, and she's like, my first husband and I would walk on the land. Okay, let's see here for a second. All right, I want to make sure I was still recording, guys, because my boyfriend actually, so let me go back to the screen. My boyfriend actually just got home, and so I went to check and I paused it, and I want to make sure I was still recording so that I wasn't just talking to myself in here, and we were just talking about it, and he reminded me. So when we look at the idea of when Christ's coming back, because again, we know, now in 1994, a little bit of background on Laura Knight, who is actually my boyfriend's cousin. She wrote this book right here. I have this book right here. And it's interesting because she came, like most of us did, from a very religious background. They were Methodist. So as my boyfriend also grew up Methodist, that their whole family, their mutual great-great-grandfather opened up the Methodist church in Nokomis, Florida. He settled Tampa, all that stuff. And so we're seeing a lot here, her coming out of religious dogma. So she's talking a lot about Christ as in a person. But we know from our own spiritual studies, our own development, and what the Cassiopeians say later on, again, this is in 1994, this is right when this started, that the Christ is a consciousness that awakens. She's still referring to it as a person because she is coming out of her own religious dogma. Okay? And so the Cassiopeians aren't correcting her because they're allowing her that space to come out of her own programming, but they're trying to lead her to this idea that a person isn't going to come back. It's a rising of consciousness, because later on in the over the 31 years of channeling, they ask a lot about Jesus or Yahshua. And basically, to paraphrase, the Cassiopeians are like, he's in fifth density doing his shit. Like, you don't need to worry about him. He has his own soul path. You need to focus on you. To worry about him and thinking that he's going to come back and save you is a negative polarity. He's doing his own thing. Don't worry about him. He's working on his own soul. You got to work on your soul. So it's interesting what we're seeing here is that she's still coming out of her religious programming. And my boyfriend was like, okay, I kind of remember that one, how funny it was that she kept trying to figure out a way to like dupe the system, like go and live in Ghana and have her own little farm. And the Cassiopeians are like, you can't escape. Like, you can't escape this. Like, there's no way out of this. We're here. We have to go through it. All right, so let's pick back up. The transition will happen and we will be standing around glazed in the eyes or whatever, wondering what to do with ourselves because we find ourselves in a new estate that we have not been in before. And then Christ comes, more or less, which is, again, the rising of consciousness of humans. Now, what is going to happen after Christ comes back and everything is sort of straightened out and he is teaching? Is everybody on the planet going to be gathered together on one place to receive these teachings? No, because it's not a person. They're not telling her this now because she's still coming out of her own fog of religious indoctrination. Is he going to travel around the earth and teach? Technically. What they mean by that? What do they mean by that? There's going to be people all over the world who have that prativa moment of Christ consciousness rising. They're going to be teaching. It's not going to be one person. So technically, these teachings are going to be around the world, but it's not going to be one person traveling to teach them. Will he teach via the media? Yes. So we will be using the media to teach. Are we still going to have access to our media, televisions, radios, and so forth? Some. Are some people at that point in time, or just prior to this transition, going to leave in large groups with the Lizzies? Yes. Are there going to be large groups of people moving into doomed cities on the planet, living in cahoots with the Lizzies? Close. In other words, there may be areas of Lizzie control on the planet and areas under the control of Christ. Christ does not control. Christ does not control. To control is of the negative. Will the Lizzie people come out of their sites? Will the Lizzie people come out of their cities from time to time and molest the followers of Christ from time to time? Maybe.
In other words, we will have a greatly reduced population. People here and there, none of whom are totally united on the planet. Answer, good night. End of session. They stopped it. So interesting, guys. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this for you guys. We are going to be doing the Constitution. If you guys want me to find more, I mean, it's so freaking fascinating, y'all. Again, I'm going to put the link down in the description box below. There's 31 years of backlogs of this stuff. So I really, really suggest going through and reading for yourself. Also, I would absolutely suggest reading the Wave series as well, so you have a better idea of who the Cassiopeians are, what the purpose of the Cassiopeia Forum is, and if there's any other, if you find any other board post channelings that you want me to look at, let me know and we'll do it. I love this stuff. This stuff is so fascinating. So anyway, you guys, have a wonderful day. Please don't forget to like and share and comment. If we get around 500 likes, that really helps the algorithms. And even if you just put your country flag in the comment section, that would be awesome. So remember, don't take everything I say as fact. Do your own research, come up with your own opinions, and be safe out there, guys. Remember, we can't escape the system we're in right now. That's not what our goal is. Our goal is to make good choices so that we consciously can move into fourth density positive. Don't let people distract you. Don't let people make you believe they're better than you or they know more than you. They don't. All right. All right, you guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.